everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Human Echoes podcast.
I'm Joseph Devon.
I'm Albert Berg, and we are coming to you today with our review of the first movie of Viewer's Choice Month, Zorro, the Gay Blade.
Yep, that's the thing that happened in Viewer's Choice Month. I've been really looking forward to this because I was dying to know what you thought of this movie. I assumed you found it delightful and loved all the wordplay and the accents and everything.
The accents were fine, so I find it delightful. Okay,
right.
That was a thing. I thought that the first half of the movie was really funny, and then as we got to like the actual gay Blade stuff, the joke just became, he's gay, you guys. Like,
yeah.
It's funny because he's gay. And I mean, I've got a little bit of a 12-year-old boy in me. I'll laugh at that occasionally, but I felt like that part of the joke went on longer than it needed to, and it didn't, it did not rise to the level of some of the other humor in the movie.
Yeah, I would say humor-wise, it had some pacing issues, is what I'm going to say. Broad strokes. Let's, real quick, just do a quick recap. It's Zorro the Gay Blade. Came out in what?
I don't know. I didn't look this up.
70s? I think it's like 80. It's a comedy.
81 says Fourth Room Brewing.
It is in the spirit of Blazing Saddles in that it's a sort of a mockery of, sort of a classic style of movie. The Zorro was pretty huge at various points in time. And so we've got the story of Zorro, who's a Spanish folk hero?
Debatably in this movie.
Well, not in this one, yes. In the Southern California area, he's a very real folk hero, actually. Zorro was the original novel was genuine. But this is the story of, Zorro. 50 years after Zorro, his son discovers that his father was Zorro and he has to take over the mask and beat the landowners and save the people.
The Pipples, Joe.
The Pipples. Pure slapstick, accents everywhere, outrageous nonsense everywhere. Again, very much like Blazing Saddles. I think Blazing Saddles is, I would say, far better movie because it doesn't...
I think this movie doesn't go as far as Blazing Saddles does.
But it also, in Blazing Saddles, the minority people, for what they're worth, are just people, and then the evil people are the caricatures. Gene Wilder and, I forget who plays Bart, they just kind of are people. They just act and they quip with each other, and it's sort of whatever. Whereas here, the sort of outsiders, well, I guess everyone's just an accent. But
not everybody. They just pick and choose when they want to have an accent and where the location's going to be.
True. I think some of the precision wasn't exactly there. But when they bring out Zorro the Gay Blade, so eventually Zorro breaks his ankle, but his brother happens to show up at the exact same time.
His kind of twin brother. They're played by the same actor, right?
Same actor, yes.
It took me a minute to figure it out until I did the turning around thing, and then I got it.
Yeah, he did this side, Zorro this side. So apparently this brother's been off in the British Navy.
That's a good joke. That his dad sent him off to the Navy to become a man.
He's the Blade. He is vibrantly homosexual. And because Zorro A has broken his ankles, he takes over for a while. And yes, and when we first meet him, I will say, so this is again what I wanted more of. So yeah, at first it's like he's gay, okay, that's fine, but then that joke keeps playing out, and there's some decent wordplay and puns and stuff and whatever. But like Al said, it got a little stale, a little early. I will say though, I think every time he's on screen, he has a new outfit, and his hat becomes more. I laughed out loud at every hat that person wore. Oh my god, giggling. They were done perfectly. That's how you do this sort of caricature. It wasn't homophobia, it wasn't insulting, it wasn't too silly, it was just this perfect spot on, this man is flamboyant, and here's this hat that he's going to wear, and it is outrageous, but also Zorro-ish, and oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing at his costumes.
I thought you know what disappointed me a little bit about this movie is I wish there had been more Zorro the Gay Blade action.
Yeah.
There's a scene, and I love this scene, where essentially beginning of the Book of Job, the main bad guy landowner keeps getting reports about how Zorro the Gay Blade has,
The beginning of the Book of Job.
the beginning of the Book of Job, where Job's sitting there and, somebody tells him about a tragedy, and then, like, as he's speaking, somebody else comes and tells him about another part of the tragedy, and as he's speaking, somebody else, like all this, he says, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee.
Okay, I don't know my Book of Job, apparently.
Yeah, the Book of Job starts with this, obviously there's the part where Job is living and there's Satan and God.
Explain through Zorro. What happens in Zorro? I know what sequence you're talking about, but tell it in Zorro.
Yes, and so in Zorro, you have that same idea where all these guys are coming to report about how Zorro, the new Zorro, has been, attacking and freeing the peasants or liberating the taxes or whatever. And they continually mention the different outfits that he's wearing
a different outfit every time,
and which vegetable it looks like, or flowers.
Banana, yellow like a banana, orange like an orange,
red like
a rose, 2 fruits, and well, go on. You love this scene.
I forgot the specific breakdown, but
I just remember plum was first.
Yes, yeah, 2 fruits, so, 1 flower. It was that I liked a lot, but what it did away with was actually seeing Zorro do that stuff.
Yeah, you saw a couple hats, but I would actually go further. You just ranked up in our chat.
Cha-ching.
I would go further and say that the action overall was pretty weak.
I thought some of the swordplay was okay early on.
Okay, maybe. I felt they could have choreographed a bit better and maybe given a week of lessons to a couple of the actors. I thought it was pretty just I've got a sword, and because you're the bad guy, I'll go like this. I'll just sort of swat to the side, and that'll stop your... It was okay. The very opening sequence, actually, is our hero, who is as flamboyantly masculine as his brother is flamboyantly homosexual, betting, the wife of a duke.
There's a great joke in there.
Yeah.
I never thought you would come into my house without my permission. And he's like, I can say the same thing about my wife!
And the Duke or whatever he is very old, and Joe's like, haha, I could, you shouldn't take me on like this. I could best you with, I could take on 4 of you. And then the Duke's like, that's why I brought my 3 brothers. And then there's this 4-on-1 fight. Oh, hi, Bacon.
Oh, hi.
Which was pretty good as far as, people running around, and then his mute servant shows up, which was a weird throwaway joke.
And it goes through the whole movie, by the way, that weird throwaway joke.
He always has the mute servant read his letters, which I found kind of funny. But it wasn't great. I'm just saying a little more, I don't know what, I don't make action movies, but I would Princess Bride level sword fighting would have really made me be like, okay, this is actually, you got the jokes, you got a little, fancy footing and stuff, whereas, I don't know if it was because it was 80 and it was a little early on. I know that, again, I brought up Blazing Saddles. It's not like the action there is wildly amazing. Maybe that was just the standard for comedy
talking here
at the time. But I think that really would have helped bring a lot of it together. As we mentioned, also the pacing was it takes a long time to get to Zorro, or maybe it takes a good amount of time to get to Zorro. Great, you've got the 30-minute mark. He realizes he's Zorro's son. He's going to take on the mantle. He has his first encounter with the tax man, which is really funny because he doesn't understand who he's fighting or what's going on. He thinks it was a bandit, and then someone corrects him. He's like, "Oh, that was the tax." Of course, Zorro knew that was the tax man.
That was a great joke.
The Z was
the Z joke. Which needed to come back more often, honestly. People being confused about the Z. There was only the 2 bits, and that was great when it happened. But then they just sort of dropped it.
But it was also weird. It didn't quite have... Again, stuff like that didn't work because I didn't know if he was dashing or if he was incompetent or if he was good at some things but bad at others. A little more definition of the character, I think, really would have locked things in. Again, so he writes his first Z. Actually, what is the first Z? I forget. The second one I know, the guy's like, that's a 2. And he's like, that's a Z. He's like,
no.
The guy... The 2. My son has learned to write 2s in school.
The first Z, the guy knew what it was, but he had no idea about who Zorro was.
Oh, he was like,
I'm new in the area, man.
Before he writes his second Z, he's like, are you acquainted with our local customs and traditions and our local folklore? Yes.
And he builds it up so long, and then the guy's like, that's a 2.
Yeah. Good gags, just something a little tighter in the direction and the acting and the something, I think, would have really driven it home for me. I also enjoy with the first time the Gay Blade writes his name. He writes the full Zorro with a whip. He's sitting there for 20 minutes.
Yes, all of that.
Yeah. But again, so 30-minute mark, he becomes Zorro. Then you get a big fight scene, and then he breaks his ankle, and then the brother shows up. So you have two two inciting events you want to say. So the staggered pacing, storytelling-wise, is a little all over the place. For a comedy, that's not the greatest sin in the world, but I like when everything's sort of neat and done well. That makes you appreciate the whole movie as a whole. I won't be like, I get this joke, but I don't understand why we're here in the story or what's going on. So little crisper. But when they nailed... It's hard. They nail like baffled incompetence really well. Al, I'm not sure what you're looking up.
You mentioned earlier the fact that the sword play wasn't as good, and you thought it might have had something to do with the time period. But there's a movie my parents have that I'm trying to figure out if it looks like it might have been cobbled together from a TV series that Disney did back in the day, in like the 50s, and the sword play in that is incredible.
Now that you mention it, like Errol Flynn swordplay is fantastic.
I mean, it's not real, but it looks good.
Yes, and it's great for you get into it. Your adrenaline gets up during the fight scenes. The fight scenes, my adrenaline was just like, this is just people sort of lumbering into each other and stuff. It wasn't quite there. The swashbuckling wasn't either swashed nor buckled enough. When I know they could do that, I guess maybe that was my point, because I have in my head old Robin Hood, old Zorro. And swing on chandeliers and stuff, and it's a lot more. It's a lot more fun. Whereas this was a lot more, obviously jokey. But I felt like they could have.
I gotta shout out to this other Zorro movie, by the way, because there's like there's a fight sequence at the end of this thing that goes on for like 20 minutes, and him and the main bad guy are just like fighting through the entire castle, and at one point they like go up into the clock tower, and they're fighting around the giant gears in the clock, and one of them loses their sword, and they're fighting with like a torch, and the other guy's sword like gets the flames, and it's awesome.
And you get a sense of danger, and that was never there in this movie. Again, I know you could say it's a comedy, but
I think that comedies can do that, though. I think that a comedy
that's my point.
Can have.
If you're gonna make something, go all in.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I've been talking for a while.
No, you seem like you were gonna go off into something else. I thought that the joke of him jumping down and breaking his ankle was really great. Like the end, because that whole scene, even if the swashbuckling wasn't like amazing, the fact that he has sort of played out that in a pretty stereotypical way, and he's like, yes, I'm Zorro, and then he falls and breaks his ankle. It's a great gag, but it also plays in really well to the plot. I love that he like gets into the character of Zorro so much that he just completely forgets that he's not immortal. He's like, he's talking to himself like, I should have known this wouldn't be. I couldn't make that jump.
You let me down. We're circling around the other topic I definitely want to talk about, which is the main bad guy, and that sort of ties it with what Fourth Room just typed into chat with the walking and running and jumping in place scene. The main bad guy I thought was really great. He nailed idiocy. I don't know what the term would be, but every time he had some over the top stuff. Obviously, some stuff didn't land, but he always was just so giving orders and then baffled when they were carried out in a certain way, or getting overtaken by his own,
incompetence.
Not mariachi band.
It's
own incompetence, but like the drummers. There's a sequence at the end when captured Zorro and they're about to execute him.
So many good jokes in this.
Keeps trying to start his speech, and the drummers keep interrupting him and continuing their drum roll, like for the firing squad. He's just like, stop it! He has that overwhelmed fish out of water sort of thing down really well, and I thought he was a great back and forth with Zorro. Especially, again, because he sort of suspects his friend. He's friends with the guy who's Zorro, but is unaware that the brother has come back. And he keeps trying to catch Zorro as Zorro, testing his ankle, which is where you get that scene where he's ordering him to walk and run and jump and dance. Which didn't make sense, because I couldn't tell if his ankle really hurt, and he was just toughing it out.
I just assumed he was really powering through it to maintain the illusion.
It's been a couple weeks, too, but... I mean, for the sake of the joke, it was fine. But part of me was like, if his ankle can do that, he can. I guess.
No, it was the same night. It was not a couple weeks. He goes home, he lays down in bed, and immediately the woman comes to his house.
That was the woman, yes.
Yeah, and she's in the cabinet at the time when the other guy comes in. You got like this Shakespearean people walking into the room all over the place, kind of, just sort of bursting in. She's hiding in the cabin. That's the same night that he broke his ankle. He just laid down.
Not the walking, running. I don't think that's the walking, running, and jumping in place. That's
I
the second
think it
scene.
is, but okay. Because then he goes and stabs his the armoire.
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about, and there's a second one after Zorro's been running him up and down, the West Coast, where he comes back and is, "You're my only friend. I'm so downtrodden," and then blah blah blah.
Okay.
It's the scene before they spot Zorro the Gayblade as the monk, and they go out to pray together, and he steals something. I think his horse and his
the way the
sword
Zorro character, I forget what his name, like the actual guy's name is, but the way the straight brother plays that, it's like, yes, I too hope that you will capture Zorro. I pray to God as well. Just like he keeps on just like agreeing with everything. But like over the top, like, yes, please, Lord, help him capture Zorro.
He's got a perfect out, and he dives into it because he realizes that. Well, no, he actually doesn't realize that Zorro's going to show up in a different. Yeah. Anyway, he gets alibied sort of in that sequence.
His brother bails him out a lot in this movie.
Yes. Same actor. I also want to mention that he plays. I know you mentioned it, but sort of go into that a bit. He definitely gets a lot of credit for pulling that off, I would say. They're certainly dove into both characters. I was happy to be the... Yes, Don Diego Vega and Bunny's Wigglesworth is the name that the Englishman takes. Or the son that went in the English Navy takes.
Yes. And the accents... You talked about the... You said this could essentially be called Accents the Movie. And the fact that Bunny's character is, like, completely not Spanish. Mm-hmm. Like, he just doesn't have a Spanish accent. And the beginning of the movie,
powdered wigs, and
they just like thumb their nose in at the idea of that there's any kind of boundaries between cultures or like countries or anything. He's in Spain at the beginning of the movie, and he gets in his carriage and he says, "Take me to Hollywood, California," or is it San Diego? I forget. But he just it cuts and he just arrives where he was going in the same carriage.
And I think he says, I don't know if this... He says, "No one's here to meet me at the port," which I found funny because they're in the middle of a...
Because there's no ship.
No, there's nothing even close to a ship. They're just in the middle of like a plantation. The Pipples?
The Pipples.
The accents.
They do not wear the ship oil. The ship oil?
Yes!
The little ships of the fields. The little babas?
The sheep oil.
Yes.
What did you think of the Bababas? The female lead.
Oh, she was fine.
I would say. Yeah.
They didn't give her much to do in the story, but when she was on screen, she was okay. I wish that they had done more. Like, there's a lot of deconstruction happening here with the Zorro mythos, right? So you're making fun of his, like, I mean, it's all kind of in place, but like he's not very good at being Zorro at first, and the fact that nobody knows what the Z is and all that thing. The fact that you have this person down there trying to liberate the peasants, I wish they had sort of lampshaded, mocked that a little bit more, where she's like trying to liberate them, but they're like, our life is actually pretty good, or something like that.
Well, that wouldn't have been bad if she had interacted with the, "Hi, Rich," with the peasants. Because she's very much like, I think with, again, Zorro, I think, takes place around the time the colonies are rebelling-ish. She mentions that. She's like, on the East Coast, the colonies have rebelled against the king, and you can rebel, because this was Spanish territory at the time, rebel against your king Spain, blah, 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 blah. She gets that whole rote thing, but that's pretty much it. And she just hands out pamphlets and falls in love with Zorro. Both of them, maybe, but not, because it's a little muddied.
She's in love with the character. It's like if, you know, the whole Mary Jane Watson being in love with Spider-Man but not Peter Parker thing.
I think she says, though, at the end, they then bring that around, completely hand-waving everything else, and saying that she actually knew it was him the whole time. But
yeah, she did not.
The brother visits her at one point, and she thinks, yeah, again, she's sort of in love with Zorro, but by the end, she's like, "But it was you I always loved." And they're just like, "Oh, okay. Let Morco live in Boston."
That's fine. Also, the joke about Boston is great. They don't have any good mariachi bands in Boston.
Yes. Yeah. That character in Boston would be a great movie. Just Zorro visits Boston. And she's like, "Hey!"
Zorro the Gay Blade 2. Bringing it back around.
Boston. Bunker Hill.
There's some really choice jokes in here that I wanted to call out. The old lady carrying the Zorro. I thought it was a coffin at first, but the Zorro outfit, giant wardrobe thing up the stairs on her back, and just, like, she's walking around the room. He's like, put it anywhere.
It's huge.
Over by the window.
6 feet high.
Wait, no, sorry, over by the.
What are you doing? I meant over by the bed.
And
she's just groaning.
He starts out that joke with the, like, oh, you didn't need to carry that up there, and then, like, he takes the letter. Like, he's not talking about the armoire, he's talking about the letter. That's a good, good fake out.
But she's walking around with this huge thing on her back, groaning for the entire scene while he's reading. Well, while his mute reads the letter. Yes,
and the communications are pretty good. And then, I forgot, there was another joke I wanted to bring up, but this isn't even a joke, all right? This is just a really great classic line. There's the moment where the villain has the girl tied up and he's threatening to shoot her, and of course Zorro reveals himself and says, no, shoot me instead. And the villain delivers this line and says, I've succeeded in life because I've depended on other people being better than me, and they have never failed me. Yeah. Or something along the line. Like that. I've always found other people to be better than me, and I've taken advantage of that. I wish that I had the exact quote, but it's an amazing sentiment, and the way it's delivered is so good. And it's not, like, it's kind of funny in the moment, but it's also like, oh, yeah, right.
I'm actually going to try and find that, because I remember that line. Zorro. Okay, Blade.
I don't know what the online fandom for this movie is like, if there's going to be a lot of, like, IMDb pull quotes for it.
I don't know, because apparently lots of our members were like, oh, that one, I would like to see them watch that. I'd never heard of this movie. I guess I recognized some of the imagery and stuff, and I was like, okay, but there's also the whole thing they're playing on, which is the flamboyancy of sort of the 40s swashbucklers, is they always sort of look all this like, ha-ha! And when I see this guy saying, aha, I was like, I don't know if that's a 40s movie or something that they did in whenever. And so I was very confused when we first got this movie nominated. Also, Zorro the Gay Blade, obviously a very, now an obvious gay joke, 1982. I wasn't sure if this was like a 1920s silent, like we'd have to go digging it up, and the gay was used in like the old school terminology.
I was worried it was going to be like more the other way. And I was like, what did you guys get me into? How bad is this going to be? And then I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, well, they're not going to, like, we're not going to be over the, like, I mean, he's over the top, but we're not going to have to get too far into it with this. So I was a little bit more comfortable when I realized it was from the very early 80s and the sort of the style it was going for. Also, that trailer completely buries the gay joke. Like,
oh, yeah?
I don't remember, they just sort of play it up like it's an action movie with maybe a couple of jokes. The way the trailer plays out makes it look like a serious Zorro movie. And then I don't know what happened. The people, is this like one of those mother marketing situations where people got to the theater and they're like, what is this?
Yeah, I wonder how this was marketed. Again, 1980, obviously there's a fine line you have to walk between vulgar, or not vulgar, this isn't quite, well, it gets a little vulgar. There's lots of sex jokes and stuff. I don't know what this was rated. I don't know what the audience was. One of the things I did wonder was how you sit down and say, this is the movie I'm going to make. We'll have Zorro. It's 1980. We're going to bring back Zorro. It's going to be a slapstick comedy, and then halfway through he's going to be replaced by his twin brother who's gay, and there's going to be a lot of gay jokes. And you're just like, yes, this is the movie.
In the early 80s.
Yes. Like, it's...
Well, it doesn't look like they spent a lot of money on it. They had... I'm trying to count up locations. So there's a few exterior shots, but there's the, like, interior of the guy's villa, and then there's Zorro's room upstairs, which could, in theory, be the same house, just, like, made to look like... So they might not have had a lot of money invested in this.
Office mojo. It is. These actors were somewhat involved. This is interesting. Okay, it made okay, we don't have the budget, unfortunately. Also, you're telling an actor he's got to play two roles. Like, they put a lot of effort into that. I feel.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that. Like, I'm sure the actors got paid, but sometimes actors just do a thing because they think it might be fun for sort of the minimum amount.
That sort of shtick is usually like, I don't know that they do that for comedy very often, or if I don't know, if I'm putting that much effort in, I sort of want to be like, want to tell them why Mel Brooks, or I want something a little more. I don't know who directed this. Well, Peter Medek.
$12 million
We're
is the
seeing in the
budget.
chat-
Fourth Room
Yeah.
says. That's Dan Malinsky from Twitter. So that's
Changeling, The Men's Club. The director did Species 2.
oh wow, that I'm sure was a great. I haven't seen it. It seems like I was just speaking of superfluous sequels. I saw there's a Riff Tracks on Amazon Prime right now, which I love how much Amazon Prime has Riff Tracks movies available, and they made a sequel to When a Stranger Calls called When a Stranger Calls Back.
Nice.
I mean, I watched the Riff Tracks. The movie itself is actually not like the worst thing. It has a lot of padding, like scenes just go on for a real long time so they can fill out the runtime of the movie. But it seems pretty tense. But the fact that they called it When a Stranger Calls Back is just that's the best joke of the movie to me. I mean, it's not supposed to be a joke, but like, why? Just call it When a Stranger Calls 2. That's one you don't need to do like Now You See Me 2, where they called it Now You See Me. No, you don't. Like, they don't. You need to do the other
they
thing.
didn't do that, did they?
No, I'm sorry. They called it Now You See Me Part, like with the number 2. But if they done like a TOO or Now You Don't or anything, I've whined about that on the main podcast enough.
Yes.
But
there's actually a fair amount of quotes online for this. The quote is, "I've always depended on people being nicer than me, and I've never in my life been disappointed." And he's talking about not I've always depended on the kindness of strangers sort of thing. He's talking about
I
the
mean,
fact that he can always
taking
take
advantage of the
someone.
kindness of
Yes.
strangers.
Yes. There's actually really... You're the bravest man I've ever met. Don Diego, I'm very impressed with myself, too. There's actually some pretty decent lines in here that I'd forgotten about.
I had a little bit of difficulty understanding some of the lines because you said you didn't have problems with it, but
No.
the audio quality was a little bit muddy, and then they're all doing these really thick accents. So both of those things combined together for me. We watched this on YouTube, by the way. We don't have like a print or anything, and it's not on a legit streaming service where we could pay for it. So we went on YouTube to watch this, and you said that there must be fans, and maybe there are, Joe, but
there's a cult following for this.
I mean, they're not like putting this up. They're not releasing this on Blu-ray.
I just said I didn't have quite as bad a problem, but it was definitely muddy at times. You said like, "Wow, this is pretty muddy," and I was like, "Mine was okay," but some of the wordplay was lost on me.
If I'd been listening with headphones or something, I might have caught some better stuff. But I was on my TV, which doesn't have amazing speakers anyway, so.
I also think even with the accents, the delivery was just a little off. I wasn't a huge fan of the Baron's wife. I felt
that
she
was
just
the other joke,
overplayed
though.
and-
Oh, I remembered the joke that I wanted to talk about. The 12 times a year.
Yes.
All of the setup. So she comes to Zorro's bedroom after Zorro has showed up at her party, and she doesn't know that he's Zorro, right? The guy who is
She's
Zorro.
in love with the guy.
Right. And she climbs up a ladder, which that whole setup in itself is just hilarious. She just like has carried this giant ladder over to his house and set it up against the balcony. Climbs into his bed. He's still real bad hurt from the fall, so he's like, "Ah, you've hurt my foot." And he tells her, she says to him, complaining about her husband, "We only do it 12 times a year." And he says, once a month is not that bad, which I have to agree with. And then she says, "No, it's 12 times in one night," which gets him wondering, she's still complaining, and he's like, "Wait, how does that work?"
He starts asking about his diet during that day.
Yeah,
He's like, "Tell me, on that one night, does he eat anything special?"
Because I need to know how I would do that.
Yes.
And that joke boomerangs back around at the end of the movie a little bit, but it's just there kind of for the sake of its own self. But I thought it was funny.
Which the wife sort of was to some degree. I felt, again, not much for there to do. They had her there because they had her there, but I wasn't in love with a whole lot of her gags or anything like that. I felt she could have been used better.
Yeah, some of that's delivery and some of that's joke. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Like they didn't give her a lot to do, and she didn't do a lot with what they gave her.
Yes. I just didn't buy her as like a sex-crazed... Because she's, Zorro grew up in this area, then left, and in her mind, they were star-crossed lovers, and in his mind...
She got old.
They show up. Yeah. So when they show up, and she's married to the evil baron or landowner, there's a great back and forth there where he's like, well, I guess I can't remember it now. Let me see if I can find it. But basically, yeah, she's like, I got married, and he's like, well, I guess our whole little back and forth is done, and you won. You can tell he's sort of like, thank God this is over with, because she's married off and he doesn't care about her anymore. I don't know. I could see that being better because she has some good lines too, and she's this sort of constantly nagging the Baron to throw parties, and she worries, she just wants to, well, basically party.
She's kind of a tragic figure too, if you think about it, because she's aged out of. Apparently, there was this. I thought the way I read that was she was once a beauty, and they were competing over her, and the Baron caught her, and now she's aged out of that beauty. She's desperate to sort of reclaim that kind of social, high on the ladder of the social rungs. I don't know how that words all of a sudden escape me, but her social status and being the belle of the ball. So she keeps making her husband throw these parties, and the joke is essentially that just she's old, which kind of comes across as a little bit mean after a while.
Yeah, and it isn't played for. When you have a joke of this guy's flamboyant, this guy's gay, this guy's evil, and with her it's just like, and she's old, and it's just sort of like doesn't get played up too much. Like if she was, I don't know, you could have done more comedy with that, had that twist around a bit. She is the reason they keep having balls and stuff, which I guess is important because the Baron, whatever he is way more obsessed with finding Zorro and making sure he keeps his gold because he's taxing the peasants out of all their money. In some funny scenes, the guy in the rack and. I just remember them just constantly taxing them.
I forgot the guy in the rack. That was a good. He will not be short again. My wife laughed out loud at that joke.
A lot of puns like that.
Enjoyed that pun.
Which can go either way for me. Some of them I enjoyed. Some of them were. I guess I just saw. Sorry, I'm looking through the quotes page, and there was a great one that I remember enjoying a lot, but it just wasn't delivered correctly. Blah 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 blah. Okay.
Blah.
Zorro's fighting, and the wife says, is looking at him at the ball, and it's like, isn't he marvelous? And her husband says, well, he wears his clothes well. I could never get into those pants. And she goes, I bet I could. Which I think is a hilarious back and forth. I distinctly remember hearing that and being like, that joke is funny. That delivery didn't land with me. And that's sort of what I've come back to a couple times in this. I like the idea behind it. I just think a couple things could have been dialed in more, and it would really have been, just a very classic comedy. And maybe it's because you have the guy on set doing playing two roles with two ridiculous accents, all of this too much. Like you said, the sound was a little muddy, but that's also partially because they had to keep doing accents. They relied on the accents for jokes, like the sheep oil, but then you had to hear it in English for things like, I could never get into his pants, but, it's just a little
bit too much?
Too frenetic at times, yeah.
I thought there was that, it was weird to me how it played out. It was almost like a setup that didn't have a joke for it, or the joke wasn't really punched very hard. But all the Zorros kept showing up to the party.
I enjoyed that.
That was a fun, see, here's the thing, that seemed like a legitimately good Zorro plan.
No, I agree. I enjoyed it for that aspect alone.
But then they pay it off with, oh, by the way, the gay Blade Zorro is in drag. There's no need for them to all be dressed up as Zorro because the plan had nothing to do with that.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. There was no dastardly oh, it's such a good plan though. It's a costume ball, and Zorro obviously arranges.
He sends a letter that everybody thinks is from the governor for everybody to come dressed as Zorro. So they're going to show up, and they're all in their Zorro costumes. And the funny part of that scene is that the governor keeps falling for it. Every single person that shows up, even though they're obviously not Zorro, he goes like, you! And goes and grabs off the mask. And they keep explaining the same
He runs up to one guy. He's like, yeah! Oh, I know who you are. And then walks away from him. And that's the kind of humor I think really landed in this. And again, with the governor... or whatever we've called him, a governor, a landowner, a baron. I don't know.
You get the point, though. He's the big bad.
I know. That word is escaping me. But I thought he did that sort of humor really, really well. Again, I've mentioned that a couple times.
I gotta ask the people in the chat, Fourth Room specifically, because Dan was a big proponent of this movie. How did you come across this? Where did this?
Alcade.
Is that his title?
Yeah.
Anyway, like, what's your history? I guess I'm asking you to type out a really long comment, and maybe that's. But I'm curious how people found this movie outside of Viewers' Choice Month. And is there a big following, or is it just Dan? There's one movie that he saw in the '80s, and
John loved it.
Yeah.
John's bummed he can't see this. We'll put this up on YouTube for John.
Yeah, there's gonna be a VOD. Roommate from Spain in college brought it home to the apartment. Like, ironically, or
yeah, like what? I did not expect that.
This is the movie of my people, my peoples.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like if I was like, we gotta. Were you won over in that one viewing, or was it like you kept throwing it on when you got home from the bars, sort of thing, or?
Were you warmed up to it? Yeah.
Yeah. So up to it. Okay, we loved it right off. I could see someone. I could actually see that. Yes. In college is a good place to sort of allow things like that to grow and become beloved, like no other time in life, I think.
Well, then in parenthood, when you get good kids movies, because then you're just like walking past as it's on, and you're like, "Yep, those jokes keep landing. I guess this movie's okay, even though I only sort of liked it when I saw it in the theaters."
Would this be the equivalent of bringing like The Naked Gun? If I was studying abroad and be like, we have to watch this.
I'm trying to think. Well, no, because
cop shows.
This is Americans making fun of Spanish culture, though. So it would be like, I'm trying to think of like a Bollywood film or something, but where everybody's American.
Maybe, I mean, some Monty Python sketches do stuff like that, and it's freaking hilarious. But yeah, I can't think of an equivalent because
Hot Fuzz is Fourth Room says Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's actually on our list.
Oh yeah, well that's if you're asking if we're gonna review it, yes, but they're all still British in that. Like nobody's pretending to be American in Hot Fuzz.
They are mocking the American
tropes, yeah.
Action cop.
I
just don't know enough foreign culture cinema to really answer that question, but there's probably some like it.
I know Bollywood definitely does like Hollywood action movies. Excuse me. Pretty much like
better than Hollywood.
In many times, I would say yes. Man, there's some good Bollywood action stuff, but and they're definitely riffing off of what is successful in America. But they're still like they're not pretending to be American.
It's not a satire. It's I don't know if this is a satire. I don't know what this is.
Although sometimes they are. Like you'll have so in Godzilla you have a quote unquote American character that's clearly just a Japanese person, and they're like, "Oh, you speak Japanese really well," and they like have 2 words of English that they say, and they're like horrible. I'm not trying to say Japanese accent is bad, but this person has a Japanese accent pretty acutely, and they talk about how they were raised in America, and it's like, no, clearly not. And sometimes when you have American people in Bollywood movies, they'll deliver lines in English, but the way they deliver them, you can tell that they've picked people who sound impressive, but like the acting isn't good. It's weird because they know the people aren't going to be hearing the words in English and understanding them like we would understand them.
They just need to sound like they're speaking English. It's like that.
I mean, they might, and they are sometimes, and they are Americans sometimes, but just they have this weird stilted delivery when they're in Bollywood most of the time.
Have you ever heard that? There's a couple things. This is a little tangential.
We can be tangential. We've reviewed quite a bit. We're about 40 minutes in, I think. So
probably a more in-depth review than Zorro the Gay Blade has gotten in quite a while. So one example of sort of what we're talking about is putting it in chat. This is an Italian teacher. He's actually became sort of famous for doing stuff like this.
Talking in Italian with an American accent? I'm just guessing. Oh, no. Okay.
Speaking gibberish, but having it sound like English. And he sort of has this rock and roll-ish song here, where it sounds like, he's like, and it sounds like English, but it's gibberish. And if you're Italian, you're listening to this, and like, oh, he's speaking, this is American rock and roll. And then there's also a great, this is amazing, if I can find it, a guy doing gibberish jokes. The guy who speaks, I don't know if he's English or American, but he spoke English, and he could tell jokes in gibberish in 4 different languages, and that makes no sense, but It's
Just like the cadence told you it was funny.
I need to find this.
This reminds me of, I remember hearing the Achievement Hunters, Gavin and Michael, talking about accents, and Gavin said that the most American word that you can say is dollars. And he would, like, he would say, it's like, dollars. We're gonna go get some dollars. And like, he emphasized that so hard. I don't know, like, there's certain meatball, I was gonna say certain words that you can say to get into an accent, and I was gonna say spicy meatballs. My brain got ahead of me. But
spicy meatballs.
The spicy meatballs. Yeah, there's certain ways, like, words that you can do to get it, like, get an accent in your head. I mean, I can't. I'm bad at accents. You guys, you have.
Yeah, we've discussed this occasionally here. Sorry, I'm also looking for this.
Have you seen the video of Operation Dunkirk yet? By the way, there's a lot of German accents in that, and I mimicked some, and every time I have a German accent, I put up voiced by Albert Berg, Man of a Thousand Voices on the bottom as a subtitle. I know you love that joke.
Recent. Sorry, I have to find this.
Joe's. Well, welcome to the portion of the review where Joe Googles stuff.
Yes,
I'm Albert, and I'll be taking over.
I continue talking. Spicy meatballs. I gotcha.
Yes.
Dollars. I think there's more. I think that's incorrect of Gavin.
I'm disappointed at how badly it seemed like this the version that we saw had degraded. I mean, some of that's just like low resolution on YouTube, but it looked like the film had gotten pretty degraded by the time it got to upload. I don't know
that cinephiles were exactly demanding prints of Zorro the Gay Blade to store in the salt mines to preserve forever perfectly. Like you said, no one's transported this to Blu-ray, as far as I can tell.
We have Ed Wood's on. I bet Plan 9 from Outer Space is on Blu-ray.
You know what? I'll take.
I mean, I'm not.
I don't want to take you up on that.
I'm not actually going to bet money, Joe, but
I know, I'm aware of that. But I think.
Yeah, here it is.
But when was that? I still don't think it's a good translation, or good transcription, whatever it's called.
Because it's a famous movie.
But I think they caught it pretty late, would be what I say. Double talk. That's what it is.
Okay. The DVD is $35 because you can't get it, Fourth Room. Like, nobody's making new DVDs of Zorro the Gay Blade. They probably did it to all run when DVDs were big, and sort of later on, like, well, what have we not done yet? Well, there's a Zorro the Gay Blade movie, sir. All right, we'll do that. It's insane.
There's an underling and a big boss. He's got a cigar. He's asking his borders. Well, there's Zorro the Gay Blade, sir. Excellent.
Meanwhile, you know what's not on Blu-ray? I just banged my monitor so hard the camera shook. What? They don't have not Last Action Hero. What's the one? The movie from the Titanic guy, James Cameron, the action movie with Schwarzenegger.
There's a couple of them. Terminator?
No. Oh, okay, yeah, he's in Terminator 2.
Terminator 2? True Lies?
True Lies. There's no True Lies Blu-ray.
Really?
There's not a true... No, yeah, that's what I thought too. James Cameron's like, well, the rights are all messed up, so we don't have it yet. Maybe one day after I get done making Blue People movies.
17 Avatars still coming.
Yeah, he's too busy to get a Blu-ray of True Lies out. And that movie, I only saw it once, but it made an impression. That was a good movie.
I hated it when I first saw it, but I was like 12. And then I saw it a couple more times. Like, this is good. There's satire, there's wit, there's subtlety. All the things absent from Avatar. The link I just put in chat is what I was talking about. Sid Caesar performing what's known as double talk. He tells jokes in 4 different languages. I can't recommend watching that enough because all of it is gibberish, and somehow it's masterful. It's one of the more impressive things I've ever seen.
For a second, I thought you said Sid Field, and I was like, man, that guy's multi-talented.
Sid Field?
Yeah. The author of I forget what the name of the book is. Famous screenwriting book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then he also did comedy in the 30s. He's also a time traveler.
I don't know when this movie came. I can't watch the video, Joe. I'm on the podcast. What did he write? He only lived to be 50?
Who?
Sid Field.
I don't know.
Not even 50. He died when he was like 46. That sucks.
Sid Caesar was like 90. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that balances it out. Average, they made it to 70. How would that help, Joe?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know who Sid Field is or why we're sad about when he died.
Actually, no. Wait, okay, this is a different guy. The Sid Field who's a comedy entertainer, lived from 1904 to 1950. Sid Field, the American screenwriting guru, lived to be. They don't want to do the math for me. He lived for a while though.
This is important. Make sure you get that in there.
Screenplay: The Foundations of Screenwriting is what he wrote.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that maybe we're winding down a bit. Unless you want to take questions. This is our first ever live movie review. The first of this viewer's choice month. So Al and I are sort of setting the format.
We did not pick a movie with a wide appeal, I have to say. I don't know.
Have you leaned to the side yet, by the way?
I have several times.
Okay.
Whoop! I started laughing in the middle of just like earlier, just thinking about the fact that you picked out the Eiffel Tower for me, and then I'm right in the middle of the screen and it completely obscures the.
Yes.
That joke was funny at the beginning, and I think now it's just like, why?
Maybe we pointed out and it's less funny because of that. Well, what do you want to do now? Do anyone have questions for us in live chat? Live chat questions?
Are you 50,
Joe? Is
Joe?
not 50, Rich.
Rich wants to know. Inquiring minds. We could talk about what's sort of moo and noovies. Yes, what's moo and noovies, Joe?
I have no idea. Wrong guy. That's Tony who talked about that. I haven't even watched the Star Wars trailer.
Oh, really? You haven't watched in Star Wars?
I saw the talking rat.
Coffee, don't fail me now. I cannot. Come on, brain. We're gonna make it to an hour, Joe. I can podcast for a whole hour. Darn it! I'm not gonna stop being able to talk. Know how to. Woo!
Cow. I did want to talk about October for us. It's a real busy month. We got this down. We think we're gonna have Vampire's Kiss next week.
Another real banger of a draw for those millennials on Mixer.
That's definitely Al and Tony. I might come in for that because I might want to watch a Nick Cage vampire movie. Rich is a little on the fence about the Star Wars trailer.
I'm glad to see someone who's just not like, I liked it. I like the Star Wars trailer. We're just gonna talk about the Star Wars trailer, but I didn't like. I was not blown away by it. I just thought that's a good Star Wars trailer. I liked it.
Definitely. Fourth Room loves them with a passion I find amazing, to be honest. I haven't felt that in a while about Star Wars. I've sort of slowly been like, I don't know about this. And then again, I saw the little talking mouse, and I was like,
Oh, the Porg?
I was like, I don't know if I'm going to see
You're going to experience the entire trailer in GIF form. I'm pretty sure it existed about 5 minutes after the trailer came online. People just like, I like this bit.
Look at the chat. Someone already grabbed the emoticon for the thing.
I mean, those Porgs are cute, right? They're essentially live-action minions.
It wasn't, great. So we're deliberately making Ewoks now, whereas Ewoks were like, what if we put this in and it's cute? And then people were like, this sort of maybe detracted from what we liked about Star Wars.
I thought people liked the Ewoks.
Yes.
I like Ewoks.
Yeah, but it's also sort of it's sort of a hallmark of like, okay, so we're just making things that are cute, and the Ewoks the Ewoks end up bringing down the Empire more than Luke does, which is what a lot of people complain about, and it's a legitimate complaint. And I don't want to hear if he didn't take down the Emperor, then because the book said so. In the movies, strictly based on the movies,
they kill more stormtroopers than Luke does. That's true.
Yes, and they Luke blew up the Death
Yeah,
Star,
Luke didn't do it. That's true. He's non-violent.
Yes.
He's on the good side.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, did it, Rich? Because that's also something I did not like about The Force Awakens.
I didn't feel like that. That's a complaint a lot of people have. I didn't think that's. I did not get an Empire Strikes Back vibe from this trailer. There is a AT-AT variant assault, so that was there, but.
Just like make up something new. You get in and you sit there and you think, okay, we've got this happening. You start small.
Well, the AT-ATs are climbing AT-ATs though.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm on board.
They're all like, they walk like apes. So the articulation of the walkers, instead of being that stiff, like they're like apes. They have like a 4 bite on. I can't I don't know if I'm describing. You know how like apes walk, like it's that, but the slow AT-AT.
Didn't do anything because the technical stuff wasn't there.
Yeah.
They always had elbows.
And I think some people have theorized that they actually can climb up things now. That the way they articulate makes it look like they're going to climb a big cliff, which would be cool to see.
Feet.
Yeah. And I guess the weird crystal planet with the red stuff underneath. You've seen the first trailer, right? Where the things are skating along and
anything. Oh,
okay. There's a really great visual of these speeders going along of some kind, and they're like cutting into this white crystalline surface. A lot of people are like, we made another white planet, huh? We're gonna have another Hoth thing. But the visual of them then like right underneath this salt crust or whatever, kicking up this red dust from underneath that's like clearly right under the surface.
The Force Awakens where they were skimming over the lake, and it was like, that's cool. It's a cool shot, but
it's no, the color. Like the color red underneath the white is what's cool about this.
Okay.
It's not just about the
X-Wings flying low, kicking up stuff.
They're not X-Wings, it's some other weird craft.
Some other weird ship. It's good. Yeah, I'm old and curmudgeonly, and I don't like anything anymore when it comes out on movies.
How about new stuff? Are you excited to see people like? Have you seen John Wick yet? Things that people are liking that
John Wick, I'm hopeful for.
Okay.
The Force Awakens was Star Wars 1. Yes, The Force Awakens was
all the Star Wars.
I am sort of curious, but I know it's going to be so pat or badly done. That's the thing. I don't have a lot of faith in anything except visuals and.
I have a lot of faith in Rian Johnson. Have you seen any of his movies? Have you seen
Looper,
Brick?
right?
Looper, yeah.
Looper I enjoyed a lot.
And
I agree, but he's not Ryan. He's not like they aren't like, all right, you go make our second flagship. Has to support the $16 billion empire we just bought movie, and you can do. You'll have complete freedom. They're gonna be like.
That's what they say they did.
Yeah, right. Whatever. And then why is Abrams back for the third one?
Because they fired Colin Trevorrow for making the Book of Henry. Did you hear about all that? I mean, there's foofara every month about Star Wars, but yeah, they had Colin Trevorrow on, who directed Jurassic World, which I like Jurassic World well enough, but I did not think it was what I would call a good movie. It was an enjoyable movie, but I want more from my Star Wars, and I think Jurassic World was worse than, again, it had dinosaurs in it, so I will forgive many sins.
I remember coming down sort of negative about it, and you railing on me and being like, what are you talking about? That was great. They had a lot of good stuff. Maybe you just were in defensive mode. That's where I would say I was pretty lukewarm about it, but it had dinosaurs.
But I really enjoyed the dinosaurs. You understand? I enjoyed the movie. I'm not. My opinion of Star Wars, like putting Star Wars in things, is not the same as putting dinosaurs in things for me. Put a dinosaur in a thing.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
What if they put dinosaurs in Star Wars?
They kind of did that in Jupiter Ascending, which is why I'll go to bat for that movie.
Well, I'm saying, what if this new one comes out, and they're like, release the Velociraptors. There's Velociraptors in a battle. Would you be like, yes? Or would you be like, this is too much of a thing that...
I don't want them to call them... Like, if they call it a T-Rex, that's not Star Wars. That's not how that works. If there's a giant lizard thing fighting people, I'm all on board with that.
Yeah, they'd call it an Indominus lizard.
Yeah.
Said, possibly. Like Darth Rex.
Dan asks, would said dinosaurs have lasers? Obviously, yes.
Velociraptor raptors. Force-wielding raptors.
I mean, really what we're talking about here is probably nobody knows this, but my icon on this channel, this website, Mixer, is from the cover art of an NES game called Dino Wars.
Type something in chat.
Huh?
Type something in chat so we can see it. I don't know if they can see it.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
I have them occasionally.
Dino Wars.
There you can clearly see what that.
If you can see the picture there, there's like a guy shooting a dinosaur with the laser, and then the dinosaur might also have lasers on it. It's about people getting in mechanical dinosaurs and riding around and then fighting other mechanical dinosaurs. That's what we need to make, really. But, Michael Bay is not going to make a failed NES game from the 90s into a movie.
Michael Bay makes it, it'll be terrible.
I mean, okay.
Terrible.
It might not be. I
can't stand action replaced by just shaking camera and zooming in close. It's just not action.
So you haven't...
Zorro the Gay Blade has had as good action as any Transformers movie had.
You're as old man Joe, right? So you are not keeping up with the new stuff.
Stop caring.
What are you excited? Like, what do you watch when you get home?
Nothing.
Nothing
at all.
You're on Netflix watching like Murder She Wrote and stuff. Don't lie to me.
That's true. That was recent. I hadn't done Netflix in a while. I
play
really? Games.
Okay.
RimWorld and Far Cry was huge this weekend. But when I'm on Netflix, my friends will recommend stuff too. A lot of I tried Bloodline.
I didn't get into
Broadchurch
Bloodline.
Season 1 was amazing. Bloodline was people making bad decisions until you want to scream at them. And then I had to stop watching that. I did enjoy. I occasionally find I like sort of the tea and crumpets murder mysteries, and not necessarily British, but any variant on give me a dead body in a locked room and a whodunit detective, and I'm like, I will gobble this up. I'm watching some god awful one about a fish out of water British cop in the islands in the Caribbean. He's learning how to.
I think my parents are watching that one, Joe. I don't want.
Yeah. That's where
for real. I think my mom and dad watched that show.
Can't remember the name of it. It's like Murder in Paradise, I think it's called. And they have okay-ish murder mysteries, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch this. And the quipping is incredibly stylized.
Are
and
they
predictable,
self-contained, like one murder mystery per episode, or is it a stretched out thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm again, because I hate on everything that's the season-long arcs are getting to me too, and sort of then the season-long arc has to lead into the next season-long arc. I'm like, you know what? I was on when this first came out, like Sopranos-ish, 24-ish. This was the new hotness, and it sort of peaked. I don't even know, The Wire for me, or trying to figure out where it might have peaked. But I think we've hit a high watermark with that. And
I think people do it too. I think that people have forgotten how to do good episodic television. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like that's become, because of the Netflix binge model, people have forgotten like that you can also binge stuff that's the same. I binged an entire season of Face Off in 2 weeks. And I did burn out on that, but the point is every single one of those episodes is the same thing. And I still was like, I gotta see another one. I gotta see another one. I gotta see another one.
MasterChef and Great British Baking Show and Chopped. I'll do cooking shows all day long. I'll hit up Netflix. I'm trying to think. It's an honest question. I have thrown on Netflix a lot recently, and I'll wind up just bouncing around. Again, I tried Broadchurch 2. I couldn't get into it. Broadchurch 1 is one of the best murder mysteries. Cutthroat Kitchen, also enjoyable. Oh, The Fall. I watched The Fall. That's Gillian Anderson in a Belfast serial killer plot thing. I don't even know where or how that got made. I'm not sure who made it, but I enjoyed that thoroughly. I like serial killers also.
You doing any reading lately? I guess to round out the whole discussion about what entertains you these days?
Yeah, a lot of nonfiction, and I realized that I'm a little... Actually, you'll appreciate this. Finished a book about Magnitogorsk, which is a Russian city built during the heyday of post-revolution, early Stalinism.
Okay.
And it's a great way of examining how that whole system functioned or didn't.
Man.
Like, what exactly went on there.
I'm reading a book about the Great Leap Forward, and that hurts so bad.
Yeah. Here... It's not too bad because this was going to be the shining jewel of Russian planned economy. So there's not as much
starvation and death
that happened outside of this realm. This is more like when they set their mind to it, what happened, and it's just wild incompetence and people. Not incompetence. That's the thing. The people had their hearts in it,
I would
and
bet.
They were smart. Yes, and a huge pileup because of the sort of the building terror to hit your quotas. Quotas destroyed the system, and so people would try and push out massive amounts of steel. It was a steelworks town,
but it wouldn't be good
steel. The quality kept dipping, and like the blast furnaces would just explode, and like things like that. A lot of people dying because of crumbling smokestacks and stuff, and all the while people still living in mud huts that were outlawed, but were the best shelter available, so people would still live in them. Weird, really fascinating because you get to look at like what the hell happened there from like a city perspective. However.
In the Great Leap Forward, they took everybody's mud huts and turned them into fertilizer.
That's kind of rough.
It was bad. And then, they buried the fields in fertilizer. They planted the seeds too close together. We're going to do a podcast about this, so I don't want to spoil everything. They just ruined their crop. They came in with, the communist philosophy and applied it to seeds. They need to be closer together because people grow better closer together, and so seeds will too. And also, let's bury them in fertilizer and like plant them so deep underground that we've destroyed the topsoil, and just like the
It's bizarre.
amount of
The notions
incompetence.
of Marxism and that theory ruled in those environments. It wasn't ever, well, what does the farmer say? It was, I understand the theories of Marx, and maybe diluted down through other authors, and therefore I know more than you, and we're going to plan this, and it's going to work great. And it just...
The worst part was Mao was all about the power of the individual, right? So he would say,
So was Stalin.
no. They would have things like, we're gonna give everybody these individual what are they? The furnaces, the backyard furnaces, right? And the farmer, the peasant knows better than these highfalutin engineer types about how to make steel. And it's like, okay, great. The peasant also knows best how to plant things in the ground because he's been doing it for 1,000 years.
Not only that, but because the peasant knows so much about planting things, maybe he doesn't know so much about steel. You kind of specialize. They destroyed their steel industry. Destroyed it by putting those... Oh, my God. As someone grew up with a scrap steel background. Yeah. Woo! However, to circle back around, fascinating, gets a little dry after time. So I actually finished that up last night and then bought Murder on the Orient Express.
I've been thinking about getting back into that. I've seen
Al
it.
and I've gotten... This comes up a weird amount. It was... we discussed Hercule Poirot an odd amount in our Let's Plays. And part of the conversation was that we're on the Orient Express, which apparently is one of those 10 Little Indians huge, great ending things, and I don't remember it, so I'm going to read it again.
It's just like, oh, man, nobody spoil this in the chat if you know the ending of Murder on the Orient Express.
I think I know it again, but I don't know.
It was one of those things where I was talking with Joe about, like, they're making this new movie, and to me, the ending is so iconic, but yet must be so well, I assume so well known that you just can't do it again, and yet apparently not. Apparently you can get a general audience in and they'll be still blown away by the ending of Murder on the Orient Express.
And again, if they do it
I haven't seen
I can watch the
10 Little Indians
again.
since I was like about that age, and I remember that ending of the movie, the black and white movie, the adaptation that they made with the whistling and the woo, chills.
Right, fair enough. Okay, so it didn't stick with me. I don't know.
Okay.
That one didn't. But I could watch The Sixth Sense again and know the ending and still be like, that's a good movie, because if it's good, it's good.
They've really doubled down on the Imagine Dragons soundtrack for those trailers. Have you seen the trailers for Murder on the Orient Express?
I'm avoiding it now.
Okay. Well, there's no spoilers in the trailer that I could tell. They just sort of set it up and be like, there's a murder mystery. But they end with, like, the Make Me a Believer song from Imagine Dragons, and people hate it. And it reminds me of when they had the Beastie Boys song in the trailer for Star Trek Into Darkness.
This is even more so, I think.
And then that song played like a huge part in the plot of the movie. That I mean, there's no way you can do it without being hugely anachronistic. But I just hope that they play Imagine Dragons songs through the whole Murder on the Orient Express reboot. That's just what I want.
Yeah, Sabotage was the song Kirk plays when he steals his dad's car in the beginning of the first Star Trek. In
Star Trek 3, they play it.
Yes, in a pivotal plot point, I'm aware of that. The cast is interesting. We're talking about Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah, they're kind of bouncing around. But roll down the road. I've lost my mind in the not literally, but I was laughing so hard knowing about about like how much people hated that song in the trailer, and the moment in the movie where they essentially roll down the windows of the Enterprise and play the Beastie Boys song full blast to blow up the bad guys.
Oh, come on! Could have stopped there. All right, predictions.
For what?
Who is Snoke?
Oh, he's just some guy. At this point, I don't think he needs to be anybody. I don't really care.
What?
I mean,
is he gonna be featured a lot more like the Emperor was in the second one?
The Emperor wasn't that much in the second one. I mean, the Emperor was in the second in Empire Strikes Back about as much as Snoke was in The Force Awakens. I think he'll get more screen time. We see him in the flesh this time, which is kind of cool. He could tie into Jedi lore, but I don't know. There's also just so much Star Wars universe. I kind of hope that like he's just some guy who was off on some other world that we didn't see in the other 6 films because it's a big universe and takes advantage of the fact that the Sith are all gone to kind of fill that power vacuum.
I don't think they can resist the dun 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 at this point. I think it's too tied into Star Wars. Man, people love that game, Knights of the Old Republic, and I forget what happened. I tried to read up the plot on the Wikipedia because my friend says that the plot of the Knights of the Old Republic is amazing. It's thousands of years before these movies, right?
It's a sort of a classic amnesia, you don't know who you are plot, you are the killer kind of a thing, I believe.
I think so.
The spoilers, I guess, for,
for
Knights of the Old Republic
game, which is not canon anymore, right?
Well, I don't think it technically is, but it happens so far in the past, there's no, it doesn't contradict anything that happens in the rest of the universe, so it can easily be made canon.
Game. Oh, they're bringing it in. Interesting. All right. Does Luke die?
Oh, that's a good one. I know Leia doesn't die. I just know it.
No.
There's a shot in the trailer where people thought that, they're showing him die. It's he's clearly conflicted in the trailer about whether he should kill his mom, Kylo Ren, and it doesn't show him pushing the button and things blowing up, so I'm guessing that he doesn't push that button and she lives through just fine, which is going to be confusing because I know the actress is dead, Joe. It's going to be real difficult to deal with in the next movie, isn't it?
That's confusing. I did not expect that much. All right.
I mean, Rian Johnson didn't know she was going to die when he made the movie.
I understand. It's just when you said that, I was like, wait, how are they going to do that if she's now not dying?
Yeah.
They wanted CGI Leia. That's why Trevorrow was let go.
That's speculation. It's also possible that he was just, weird. He's not a great filmmaker, is all I'm saying. He's fine, but give him some more dinosaurs. I'd love to see him do dinosaurs.
Oh, okay, Jurassic World.
But,
So wait, what was your Luke? Fourth Room says no. Fourth Room's on the record as saying no, Luke will not die. Al?
There's no way for me to know. I think it's...
It's what it said, man.
I'm saying I could flip a coin and I would not be surprised either way.
All right.
You want me to predict? I guess I'll say, yeah, he dies. That's just a guess, though. If they didn't kill him, I would also be fine with that. I do hope, though, they handle his death better than they handled the death of Han, because the way that played out as an emotional beat in that movie just felt like...
Well, the whole Kylo Ren thing doesn't make any sense.
Just killed off Han, okay. I was not crying in the theater when that happened. I don't have an emotional...
That's because he needed to be... Because that doesn't make any sense! Kylo Ren's whole deal is emo, and that doesn't make any sense. No one goes that far.
Well, because
people become evil believing they're good. They don't set out to be evil because it makes them powerful. That's just not...
Well, the dark side is about, anger. I can see the idea of, am I willing to tap into anger and trying to get that up, but really you're just a really peaceful guy on the inside? You're right, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't.
But
it actually goes so far as to kill your dad because you want to... It turns the Force into a cult. I have to sacrifice things to my dark god rather than what's going on inside of you, which is where Star Wars lost me, I think.
For me, the reason it doesn't make any sense emotionally is because we don't have any, as an audience, connection between Kylo and Han. We've never seen them have a positive interaction together. We don't know what this means to them, how much they're giving up. It's just essentially for us, two strangers meeting on a catwalk and one of them stabs the other one, and we kind of know one of the guys because he was in some movies we saw way back in the day. But yeah,
they missed a lot of opportunity in my mind to examine. Oh, there's a cutscene from Fourth Room just typed in. There's a cutscene from the Force Awakens where Kylo is on the Falcon, which would have meant there was, like Al said, actual beating.
It might not have made sense though. Also, I think the idea was that he's on the Falcon and he remembers, he doesn't meet Han. He's he gets on and Han's not there, and Kylo's remembering. So even then, they still didn't have them and I don't know how you would make it make sense in the plot for them to touch base at some point, but. You can write stuff. You can make things up with your words. So do that.
I think they missed a great opportunity there to have that dynamic of mom, dad, son crumbling, and at least like all they were was like, well, I went, I left, and Leia was like, yeah, I didn't, and we failed. Like that's the crux of that movie. Why does Kylo Ren turn bad? How do Han and Leia crack? What causes
there's a whole great story that happens before the movie that you want to see that isn't in the movie.
Yep. And there's just a lot to mine there about families tearing apart and why I could see that turning someone to the dark side, just absolute hatred for a crumbling home environment and Han, the parents fighting over the kid. There's a lot there that they were just like, no.
Yeah, not getting to see that fairy tale romance fall apart. Just being like, yep, we fell apart. Like, what? Show me! Show me something!
If they're just there to hand it off. But again, to have the emotional, sort of large emotional beat of the movie center on that, what should, be there but isn't, was a bit cheap. If it had just been like, well, we broke up, and then, by the way, here's the keys to the Falcon, and then go off and have your adventure, be like, okay, they handed off, whatever, we don't need to know that much, because we have this new story that we're going to see now. But instead it was like, there's this awesome story about everything, also none of it makes any sense.
I think there's good stuff in The Force Awakens, to be fair. I think that especially all the new actors, the way some of their stories don't make a lot of sense, especially John Boyega. I feel like he needed to be given more weight to his backstory to sort of... But
which one's John Boyega?
The black dude.
Finn?
Yes. But he plays it really well. Yeah. And so does Daisy Ridley. She does as much with that role as she possibly can. And there's such a weird political debate at this point about how she develops her powers. I really had a problem with when she manifested the Force manipulation of minds ability. That seems like an advanced technique, and you just shouldn't be able to unlock it just because you have a bunch of metachlorian stats or whatever she has that she's real powerful. I'm fine with her being cool and being able to fly the Falcon. That seemed like they set that up pretty well. She's a good pilot. She has this instinct. We know people with the Force, and linked. Well, maybe if they're linked to Skywalkers, we don't know yet. But that they're.
That's gonna be my third prediction question, but we'll come back to that.
That they can tap into some supernatural reaction abilities and stuff. I was cool with all that sort of being latent, but she got I thought too powerful too fast without enough an explanation.
I mean, she wins in a sword fight with a Jedi.
Yeah, I'm on your Joe. You were going to ask who Rey's parents are.
Yeah,
I think I'm on Fourth Rim side. He said Obi-Wan, and that is probably accurate. That Obi-Wan went around, had some hanky-panky when he was in the desert on not Jakku, the real one, Tatooine. I hate that they made another desert planet.
Why? Yes. Okay, wait. Fourth Room says I think Kylo hid Rey on Jakku. Kylo? Kid sister, you mean? Or niece?
Having watched that movie a couple times, he should be more in tune with who she is then throughout the film if he was the one who did it.
Fair enough.
I don't think it's Kylo. I think it's Obi-Wan or whoever Obi-Wan had sex with, Rey's mom, which we don't know who that would be yet, but...
And Beru.
Yes. Some people have suggested some people from the EU who it could be. Obi-Wan was the granddad.
Granddad.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now that I'm thinking about it, the timeline wouldn't make sense for her to be his daughter.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, then there's a middle... Well, this is getting confusing.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes. Okay, that's the right.
Daughter and Luke.
So we're probably bringing in Mara Jade. I don't think she's been in the extended universe with
not shown up yet.
So bringing in a Mara Jade-esque character. She meets Luke. They have a baby. That's Rey. Maybe Mara Jade doesn't know that. Luke doesn't know that he has a daughter. Maybe it was sort of a fling, and then Mara Jade goes off somewhere and has a baby, and it's a reveal. But this is all complete speculation. And by the way, I don't expect to get really a lot of answers from The Last Jedi.
Yeah, no, they're gonna wait. Well, I don't know. It worked for Empire.
They had their big reveal. I'm sure there will be something revealed, but in the novel, Kylo is 9 years older than Rey. I almost want to read the books. I feel like there's stuff in the books that would...
It's cheating, I always feel.
Yeah? If it's the same book though, like not like an extra outside book, but like just the book of The Force Awakens.
If they add details in The Force Awakens that aren't in the movie, yeah, I think that's if they're like, by the way, you would have known this if you had read the book.
Well, you can't know people's like inner thoughts from the movie though.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Kills the younglings. The younglings too. There's a lot of stuff going on, and Rich and Fourth Room are discussing.
Go back and
Stuff I
forth
don't
about.
understand at this point. Something about Luke's temple and Snoke in her head.
Well, Luke was running a Jedi temple. We know that from. I think they talk about it in The Force Awakens. They definitely talk about it in the EU stuff. And like Kylo went bad. Like
But the EU stuff is gone.
No, the new EU. It's just
There's new EU.
yeah. Of course there's
EU?
new EU.
I
They
didn't
didn't.
realize that was.
Yeah, they're writing books now that correspond with the new movies that are coming out because they didn't want to be. If you just had to make movies that were like only
Good?
went with the stuff. No, but I mean they had mapped out all the stuff that happened after Star Wars, and if you just were only able to do those and specifically the way it was written in the books, it would become a mess. I think.
Okay, Fourth Room says, I think Kylo destroys Luke's temple and takes Rey to hide her for later, like a snack. He's gonna hide her. He's gonna hide her.
Eat some now, save some for later.
I wasn't a fan of Finn. I thought he was a little too slapsticky. I thought Daisy was amazing. There's just
Well, Finn's slapsticky because he doesn't they didn't give him enough of a character.
fair enough.
Like it's not the
That's
actor's fault. They just wrote him as
said
like
Finn.
he's gonna give
I
some
said
jokes
Finn,
now.
right?
Yeah. I guess
said
that's
Finn.
right.
The
jokes are
great
funny,
pilot
but they
was
don't-
Just a great pilot, and then
Yeah.
it's just like, and now I'm back on the scene now, guys, and here I am. Like, why would you send? That's like sending
They were gonna kill him off originally.
the Blue Angels to like rescue because he's supposed to be looking for the plans at first. It's weird. The map doesn't make any sense. Hey, congratulations, Rich, you ranked up in chat. I didn't understand what the map was. He
It's
showed up
just
wearing a plum
plot
map.
convenience. I mean,
It's so lazy. That makes no sense.
are you saying like you don't understand the map at all, or you don't understand why R2 just
No!
happened to wake up at like the time?
The
Yeah.
whole map thing. How does he have a? It's just like, and then there's a piece of the map missing, guys.
Well, this is other stuff that like in the book you probably get more details on. Like there's links to how to hyperspace jump to certain places. You know, there's like math that you have to work out, and then it just visually manifests as a giant hologram with the piece cut out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Should we wrap this up, Joe? I think
Yeah,
we've said what
wrap
we're going to
this up.
say about Zorro the Gay Blade, and we've had fun whining about Star Wars. Although I'm excited, just for the sake of Rian Johnson, honestly, I'm very excited for Episode 8.
Fair enough.
I think he's a good director, and I think even if he does things that are similar to Empire Strikes Back, that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about execution. I'm worried about how that stuff comes across, and if he delivers the way I feel like he's been able to deliver in the past, and you know that he brings a special stamp to it, that we're going to get a good movie. And he did get to write the script. I'm sure I don't know exactly how true the creative freedom stuff was, but it seems like they've honestly, I think that one of the problems they're running into is they're giving people too much creative freedom, and then like when they create freely, the people at Lucasfilm are like, whoa, I don't know if we want you to do that, and really
Make
want
a
to
map
pull
with
back.
a hole in it. What the hell are you doing? Look, you're gonna have a giant plum in a bar who's got a lightsaber for some reason, and then the map's missing a hole. That's fine. Don't talk about Han and Leia breaking up. That's sad.
How did Luke's
That's what the notes were
lightsaber
like.
get there?
Doesn't matter. She's a plum. She's a magical plum. She owns a bar. Then you blow up a bunch of planets with the Alliance or possibly the Rebellion or something, and then there's stuff.
Welcome to our podcast where we whine about Star Wars. Thanks, guys, for watching. I can't tell you to like and subscribe on Mixer because that wouldn't make any sense, but I guess this is going to go up on YouTube later for those of you who did not have the benefit of seeing it live. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed on Mixer already, also do that. I assume most of our viewers here are there. Next week is Vampire's Kiss. Is that correct, Joe?
That is correct. Definitely Tony and Al and
Same
possibly
bat
others.
time, same bat
October is
station?
busy. Yeah, we're gonna stick with this.
Okay. So it's gonna be early in the morning for Tony, and he probably will be grumpy. Yeah, that'll be fun.
I was wondering if the soundboard was up.
Oh, I can't hear it from my end.
I know you can't hear it. It's pretty great. They played. My pants fell off when you said Tony.
Hey, take
right,
care, guys.
Look, I'm Joseph Daffin.